Hello everybody, my name is Tobisatsu, and today we'll be going over the TV shows and movies I watched in the month of May. Let's start with TV. The Studio. With the show wrapped up, I can definitely go and give this a solid thumbs up. I'm not going to act like the show left me with much to chew on once the episode's wrapped, but I genuinely enjoyed the stories they tell and the jabs they make towards the current state of Hollywood. It's funny and over the top, with some really great camera work and cinematography that will keep your eyes on the screen as the stories play out. The cast all around kills it, with Seth Rogen being the standout for me as the head of the studio, Matt Remick. I'm very 50-50 with Seth, but I can happily say that this is one of my favorite roles he's taken on in recent memory. I highly recommend giving this a watch if you have Apple TV. In fact, the next show is on the same platform, with that being Severance. Man, what a show! My girlfriend and I wrapped up the first season this month, and holy shit does this show live up to the hype. I'll try my best to avoid spoilers while going over the show, as I definitely think it's worth your time. The cast here is incredible. Adam Scott, Britt Lauer, John Turturro, and Zach Cherry are the absolute perfect set of people to play these characters. Their emotions, both subtle and blatant, just capture your attention. Seeing the way this show weaves and threads the narrative between both the innies and the outies, showing the struggles on both sides of the coin, is brilliant. Mark's struggle with the loss of his wife is done fantastically, and his later investigations into Lumen make for a good way to dig deeper into his character and his psyche. You're rooting for these characters, and even the characters who seem to have the nastiest motives may also be under the thumb of an overarching evil. They even find a way to naturally sneak in a love story that at no point feels forced or runtime munching. The relationship between Irving and Bert is absolutely beautiful and tragic. Severance is an example of what a good production can truly do when you have a competent team behind it. Absolutely incredible. Season 2 has also continued to be super solid, leaning much more into new directing and cinematography through the show. Keeps the formula unique while still being as engrossing as ever. I'll talk more about this next month, as I still have a few episodes to go. I'm beyond ecstatic to have watched this show, and I highly recommend it. It's worth the subscription to Apple TV. Genuinely. Before we get to movies, be sure to leave a like if you're enjoying the video so far. And if you think you're going to like more of what I put out, be sure to subscribe as well. On to movies. Thunderbolts. As someone who has heavily criticized Marvel past Infinity War, and has found that, at their best, they've created mostly mediocre, and at worst, complete garbage slop in recent years, it brings me a sliver of happiness that Thunderbolts actually ended up being fairly decent. Not great, but I left the theater feeling something more than or just flat out hating it. Through all the multiverse and galactic stories they've been so heavily pushing, it's nice to get something fairly grounded, and besides some conveniences in the plot, have a script that isn't complete trash. There's quite a bit of homework to do before seeing this film, so I may have missed certain character contradictions. For context, I've seen Black Widow, Ant-Man 2, and a bunch of projects Bucky had been in prior, so I did have some familiarity with some of the characters. It's also worth noting I have not watched the TV shows. I can't handle that much slop intake. The writing here isn't anything incredible, but the lack of anything horrible or character breaking is a nice change of pace. Even some of the smaller moments involving the members were nice. I found US Agent's thorny yet compassionate attitude pretty endearing. He was easily my favorite character out of the bunch. I do wish they treated him with more respect though. It seems like the writers heard the positives people had about him after Falcon and the Winter Soldier and made him more of an ass. I enjoyed the action, and I found for the most part the comedy throughout was actually balanced well, which was something I was nervous about heading into this film. Everyone puts on a solid performance, and while the story and themes could have been a bit deeper dug, I found what they did to be more than enough. I'm intrigued to see where they go with this team based on the ending. I found it somewhat corny, and since they would be in Doomsday, it feels like a way to make a fairly standard team into something more meaningful. This is quite obviously Marvel's Suicide Squad, so if you go into this film with that mindset, you'll know what to expect. It's a fun film, and one that I could see myself going back to in the future. Worth checking out if you're interested, but otherwise it's best to wait for streaming. Lord of the Beans. Both my girlfriend and I grew up on VeggieTales. I've actually been wanting to watch this special for quite some time, and my girlfriend is a big fan of it. So I bought a cheap copy of the DVD on eBay, and we gave it a watch. VeggieTales as a whole honestly has some great comedic moments, being one of the rare examples of a Christian show meant to entertain first, and then leave you with a moral to chew on. Overall, this special was fine. I think the lack of nostalgia was a big factor as to why this one didn't fully work for me. It's a very abridged version of the films, mainly taking from the first and second until it turns the story almost completely original. I was honestly hoping it'd be a bit more faithful, pun intended, but as its own little thing, it's a fine watch. Something like this could make for a decent jump-off point to get kids into Tolkien's world. Not much more to say. It's Lord of the Beans. Waves. I'd like to actually dig into this one a bit. To do this, I'll need to delve into spoilers, so if you'd like to avoid them, please skip to the next entry in the video. Waves revolves around a family who's struck with the aftershock of a family tragedy, and how they go about mending their relationships. The first half of this film had me hooked. I absolutely loved what they did with Tyler's character, showing the events he goes through that leads him into jail. It gave me major Nightcrawler vibes, with the film slowly becoming darker as the events continue to transpire. This goes for the whole film, but I love the change in aspect ratio and use of color throughout. I personally found it to be most impactful through Tyler's story, but it was a neat artistic touch. After he's arrested, though, I feel the film begins to lose itself a bit, changing its focus mainly on his sister, Emily, and how the dynamic of the family has been shaken to its core. It feels like two movies in one, and while I find the way it was handled to be fairly impressive, I do think it could have been done better. The biggest fault of this film is having Tyler be the main focus at the start, only to drop him halfway through, and then show him in prison at the end of the film. Spending all that time with him worked when he was involved in the film, but past that, it leaves the film in a tough spot to build up the family, who, up until this point, has had some minimal development. The shift in tone also really lost me. I think experiencing what the film started with and seeing how it ended made sense. The idea of forgiving those who did wrong, which in itself is a bit of a 50-50 subject, and having the turmoil Emily goes through parallel parts of Luke's forgiveness of his dad was done well. But I can't help but wish this idea was spread across more than one film. This is a very loaded film, and an example of a movie that I think would benefit from a second viewing. I may come back to this down the road, but for now, I've had my fill of it. Interesting watch though. Fest Godzilla, numbers 1 through 5. So, technically these are a bunch of shorts with a shared narrative, but with them equaling just about an hour of runtime, I feel I can briefly touch on these. Fest Godzilla was a series of Scoopmation shorts that ran from 2020 to 2024, that follows the Big G as he goes on a rampage through Japan, challenging any kaiju that stand in his way. Unsurprisingly, there isn't much of a narrative, with these shorts solely being about the challenges it takes to make these fights, and just how incredible they can look when done with passion. I love these, and seeing new suits for Gigan and Jet Jaguar is a treat. With this, all the practical effects are incredible, and the throwbacks to older soundtracks that blare as the fights transpire is pure fan service. There's also the great camera work you'd expect to sell the fights, with each short containing a long pan shot at some point within the runtime, allowing for some awesome moments. If I had to rank them, I'd go as follows: 3, 4, 5, 2, 1. These are excellent watches if you're a Godzilla fan, especially of the movies that had suitmation. My friend is a massive Ari Aster fan, and he's never gotten past the opening scene of this short, so we decided to sit down and watch it through. Technically, this is the second time I've watched this, but the first I've watched in full. Honestly, it's really well made. The acting is fantastic, the tone for the most part is perfectly done for what they're trying to achieve, and it's a very professional production. Obviously, if you've heard of this before, it's most likely due to the plot, where... yeah, it's pretty fucked. I will say the assault is done tastefully. I can't believe I'm going to have that quote out there. Point is, it's not shown, mostly implied and heard. It's still disgusting, and it makes the whole short beyond uncomfortable to watch. It's a fucked up film, and for a very niche set of people. I guess I was part of that to watch it 2 times, but I don't plan on coming back to this one for a long time, if ever. I can't recommend this one at all. Final Destination: Bloodlines. Bloody, brutal, and just a ton of fun. The movie follows a family who is being killed off one by one. This is due to their grandmother, who survived an event meant to kill her, with Death now looking to take his claim. I'm not going to act like the story and the characters are the selling point of this film, and if you're going in expecting anything deep, you'll be sorely mistaken. The reason we're here is for the gore, and man, it's like this franchise never left. The deaths here are both comedic and brutal, with some of them really getting you to flinch up as they happen. The gore here is what I wanted to see from the monkey, though similar to that film, I wish more practical effects were used. The CGI is pretty hit or miss at times, and can distract from the overall carnage. I will say that the creativity in these deaths are very apparent, and you do get some basic squashes and head blows, but there are some deaths that take advantage of the character in specific, and it's just chef's kiss. Past that, the film has some wit with its comedy, and for a theater experience, it was worth the watch. Nothing crazy, but I had a good time with it. If you're a fan of this franchise, you're in for quite the treat. Aquamarine. I'll be frank, I'm out of my depth with this one. Pun intended. I watched this with my girlfriend, as this is a childhood classic for her. It's a movie that exists. It's clearly not made for a man headed towards 24 years of age. It's got that Disney TV movie vibe all throughout, and I can see how this could appeal to a younger audience, or those who have the nostalgia for it. I can't provide much insight past it. Not good, not bad, just exists. Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning. Coming off the clunky and sluggish Dead Reckoning, Final Reckoning unfortunately continues its downward slope of trajectory. Mild spoilers for this film, so skip to the next section if you want to avoid them. Final Reckoning continues the story of the prior film, with the entity now taking reign all over the world, spreading misinformation and attempting to gain access to the world's nukes. This is in order to, and I quote, create its own world. From there, it's down to Ethan Hunt and the gang to stop it. Let's start with the positives. The soundtrack is absolutely banging, and the way it's used through the film is incredible. My favorite scene has to be the submarine mission, due to the music used and how it's all shot. That leads into the enjoyment I had with the stunts. When they were happening. They were solid for what they were, but definitely needed to be involved more. The acting was fine enough, nothing horrible, but that leads into the negatives. The Entity is such a horrid villain, and an absolutely stupid representation of AI. The depiction of fake news is goofy as fuck. You're telling me not just boomers, but the whole world believes these Photoshop edits, which, by the way, is shit anyone can do from their computer. Also, for something so advanced and so unpredictable, it's a miracle Ethan Hunt has the brainpower to know its exact moves every single time. Which leads to the fact there are just no stakes. Ethan Hunt is superhuman, and this film makes the impossible possible, but not cleverly. As much as I love that scuba scene, Ethan swimming over 500 feet in his tighty whities and living is wild. Hell, even the idea that they need to grab a flash drive in the literal blink of an eye to catch the AI in their makeshift USB is just so unbelievable, even for this franchise. The more I think about this film, the more it falls apart, and I'm not even touching all the bases here. If I can give it anything, it's a fun experience film. But past that, I don't have a reason to come back to this ever. Unless you're a fan of this franchise, it's just not worth your time. Shin, Kamen Rider. I feel like of the 3 movies Anno has worked on in his Shin Japan Hero Universe collab, this is easily the one that gets overlooked the most. Frankly, I can understand why, as of the 3, I do find it to be the weakest. The film follows Takeshi Hongo as he teams up with Ruriko and a team of undercover agents to defeat the evil corporation, Shocker. This was my second viewing, and I can easily say that I enjoyed the film much more than my first watch. The film has a ton of shit going on, making it hard to process unless you've seen it before. Characters are solid, with the film being structured as though multiple episodes of the show were condensed into a 2-hour film. Hongo makes for an interesting protagonist. You feel the Evangelion vibes with him and his struggles through his arc. Very Shinji-esque. I also found the body horror moments to be super effective. I love that you can see the animal DNA that's been fused into these superhumans. Action was solid, though I do wish there wasn't such a reliance on CGI throughout the film. I hate to say it, but that initial 15 or so minutes with Hongo fighting Spider Og is still the highlight. It's also unfortunate that Shiro Sagisu didn't come back a third time to compose the soundtrack for this film. While I found the music fairly solid, his touch would have been very welcome. I'm a Hideaki Anno stan, so at the end of the day I'm going to have some bias towards this film. It's a super fun watch, and if it's up your alley, I recommend it. Welp, that wraps up the movies and TV shows I watched in the month of May. What'd you watch? Be sure to leave a comment letting me know. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, and if you want to see more, be sure to subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching. This has been Tobisatsu, and I hope that you have a great day.